Just 2 weeks before DSM-5 was due to appear, the National Institute of Mental Health, the world's largest mental health research institute, announced that it is withdrawing support for the manual. In a humiliating blow to the American Psychiatric Association, the APA, Thomas R. Insel, MD, Director of the National Institute of Mental Health, made clear the agency would no longer fund research projects that rely exclusively on DSM criteria. Henceforth, the National Institute of Mental Health, which had thrown its weight and funding behind earlier editions of the manual, would be reorienting its research away from DSM categories. Thomas R. Insel explained, the weakness of the manual is its lack of validity. Of the decision to steer research in mental health away from the manual and its perimeters, Insel states, patients with mental disorders deserve better. I look at the data and I'm concerned. I don't see a reduction in the rate of suicide or prevalence of mental illness or any measure of morbidity. I see it in other areas of medicine, and I don't see it for mental illness.
I came down today because I wanted to show my support to the work that Speak Out Against Psychiatry is doing, which I think is really important, giving people who've had really horrible experiences in psychiatry an opportunity to sort of express how unhappy they feel about that. It's something that often happens in secret and people feel really ashamed about it, and I feel it's something that is kind of like still quite taboo in our society. And I had an experience in psychiatric hospital many years ago which wasn't anywhere near as awful as some of the stuff that I've heard other people have experienced. But when I went into hospital I was in a really desperate state, and actually the things that happened to me there and the things that were said to me made it worse. And I just feel so outraged that often when people are really in a terrible state and really at their worst point, then worse things happen to them, and so it makes me feel a lot better knowing that other people share those concerns and share that sort of sense of outrage, really, and I think so often we feel alone with these things. So I think getting together with other people and not being that lone voice and actually being part of a collective voice, it makes me feel better about that I'm doing something about these really horrible things. So that's really why I decided to come down. I did think, I might go to the park and do something else, and then I thought, no, go down and show your support, and put some action out there and let people know that this stuff's really important. I feel very strongly about the DSM-5. I think one of the good things that's come out of it is that it means that there's more discussion and debate at the moment about these issues. So often I think members of the public just think, oh, that's nothing to do with me, it doesn't affect me, that's to do with doctors, and they don't feel informed, they don't know what the issues are, and unless it happens to you or somebody that you love, then you kind of avoid the issues. And I think one of the good things that's come out of the DSM is that there's been much more debate in the media. Things that I've been waiting years to see in the newspapers that I read. I think that's a good thing. I'm always somebody who tries to take the good from the bad. I think one of the other good things about the new DSM is that they've gone too far, in medicalising and increasing, increasingly trying to kind of medicalise ordinary human reactions to life.
Like bereavement and loss.
And loss, and children having tantrums, and people kind of overeating.
And being worried about their health.
Exactly. All these things are actually very common and understandable reactions.
And very human as well.
Very human. And now being turned into disorders, and of course, you know, they're being turned into disorders that the drug companies have got these new wonder drugs to sell us. So there's a lot of investment, a lot of people that have a lot of vested interest in kind of promoting these ideas. But I think at least the debate is making ordinary people kind of question some of this stuff a bit more.
I hope so.
I bloody hope so as well.
DSM-5, it's the latest edition, so this is totally cutting edge science. I'm going to spin you whenever you want, just drop the book. You can drop it whenever you're ready.
Okay.
Sorry, 1 second. Oh, you have got, it's a PTSD and a little bit of schizoaffective disorder. Post-traumatic stress disorder. So make sure you wear this label all the time so that normal people know to avoid you because you're mentally ill.
Thanks. Awesome.
Some medication. I think we'll give you risperidone because it's cheap and we give it to everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's supposed to be effective.
Yeah, and if you don't take it, we'll inject you. So, thank you very much. Come again. Holy DSM-5. Okay, I'm going to spin you. Whenever you feel ready, you just have to drop the DSM-5. Oh, you have got OCD.
Oh really? Okay. That's definitely not what I was expecting.
Well, I'm the expert, so you do have it.
Can I argue with you?
No, if you disagree, that would actually be a sign of your, your illness. Oh, and your medication, risperidone, I think that's tried and tested, It's an antipsychotic, but it just makes you shut up and do what you're told, and it's cheap. Yeah, whenever you feel like dropping it. Post-traumatic stress disorder.
I've got everything.
You've got a little bit of schizoaffective there as well.
Okay, that's all.
Very much. I know your medication. Give you some olanzapine. It's an antipsychotic. It will shut you up and make you zombified. Keep taking it.
Yeah, we all thought.
Oh, personality disorder.
Right!
You got a little bit of PTSD, but mostly personality disorder. So let me get your diagnosis for you.
Society of Indian Psychologists states that to treat the DSM as the privileged domain of predominantly white, predominantly male US psychiatrists is to abdicate responsibility for how the DSM is used in the US and around the world. The DSM-5 illustrates a dangerously narrowed point of view in the continued evolution and development of the art and science of diagnosis, which could result in this DSM being considered parochial and of limited relevance. This is not a scientific path, nor one that speaks to advancing an understanding of the human mind, of mental health, or of human well-being.
I'm here to be feeling proud and meeting people who are with the DSM, because I meet people who does not prescribe medications. They are still in the conference as well. So I met them. I will meet some more who are the young students I met who does not like to give medications. They know the horror of the medications, but they have to have a career. They won't give to their own children. The nurses try to get some medications from the doctors to manage the ward. 3 nurses against 30 patients. What does it mean? It means no sound, no cry, no talk, no tears. I'm just wondering that meeting people here and talking to, how much it's a privilege that a respect between each other happening. And that respect is ignored by the DSM. They don't need to know people. They need to say that someone has got no insight in a person's his own issue.
DSM-5 pushes psychiatric diagnosis in the wrong direction, will create new false epidemics, and promotes even more medication misuse. The right goal for DSM-5 would have been diagnostic restraint and deflation, not a further unwarranted expansion of diagnosis and treatment.
DSM-5 is not on my Christmas wish list.
Why is that though?
I think it's rather a pernicious volume.
How does it compare to DSM-4?
It's fatter.
Yes, and what that means that there's more diagnoses, more illnesses that people can be diagnosed with.
That's apparently the case.
And you don't agree with that?
I guess my experience of like being involved in, say, hearing voices groups, you know, when people turn up and they're very distressed and overwhelmed, you know, by their voices, but also by, I mean, often even in hearing voices groups, people spend months talking about the trauma of being in hospital and the horrible things. Oh yeah, that's often, and I train staff, and I often say, you know, be prepared. People spend a long time almost like debriefing the trauma of having been sectioned and possibly medicated and, you know, all the horrible stuff that happens. But my experience is that once people have done that and then work some of that through and then are able to connect with other people in that sense of kind of righteous outrage that people feel, then people do feel more able to start speaking out and becoming more active. So I guess it's a kind of process, isn't it? Because one of the things that I'd like to do is see survivors of psychiatry working alongside critical professionals and working together, because I know there are a lot of good people who work in mental health services who feel horrified by some of the things that happen and very much want to be involved in trying to change that, because I think it's kind of them and us.
So what do you think it's going to take though to get more, as you say, survivors to actually now start being more proactive? What do you think it's going to take to encourage that?
Well, it's a good question. I mean, you know, I kind of, as I said to you, I hope people will turn up. I mean, I guess part of it is the stigma about turning up to an event like this, because in a way it's associating yourself with an issue that some people may feel uncomfortable about, sort of, you know, publicly declaring some kind of issue with it. I sort of almost didn't come along today. It's a gorgeous day, and I thought, you know, I could go and do something else. But, you know, I felt it was important to come along actually and just sort of show my support. But, I mean, I don't feel ashamed of the fact that I was in hospital. I don't feel ashamed of the fact that I've had these very extreme experiences. But it's taken me a long time.
Critics of the DSM-5 process have noted that 70% of people serving on its committee to define specific diagnoses have financial ties to pharmaceutical companies, up from 57% for DSM-4. His book called Saving Normal, Alan Francis says DSM-5 will mislabel normal people, promote diagnostic inflation, and encourage inappropriate medication use.